All right, good evening, everyone. Randy here. Wanted to do a video talking about a very essential and very important thing that is very critical if you're going to want to understand the importance of community, if you want to understand the importance of togetherness, or if you're a prepper or you're a survivalist. It's all pretty much the same thing when it comes to a mutual assistance group. Coming into the knowledge of the truth, I came in as a prepper, and as a prepper, I understood that not only do you have to prepare for tumultuous times that are coming, but you're going to need people, and you're going to want to be saddled up with people with one mind and one spirit. And I've been able to study a lot of different communities over the years, communities out of Georgia, Tennessee, Texas. South Carolina, North Carolina, about a dozen communities I've been able to review and track. And one of the things that I notice about these communities is that whether they are Hebrew roots, Messianic, Christian, whatever they may be, they're all in one mind and one spirit. And that is the central focus. Whatever is their overall philosophy is, again, whether they're Christian or whatever, is that they're living with people that are like-minded. And that's going to be very critical as we go forward in the times that we're living in, because there's so many different benefits to living in a community setting or a group setting with fellow people, because you're going to be able to benefit economically. Now, again, depending on the construct of the community. Some communities are constructed where it has been my personal view that only the people at the top really get to benefit from the fruits and labors of everybody else. And then there's other communities, which I've reviewed, where everybody pretty much gets the opportunity to benefit off of the fruits and labors of that community. Regardless, they're all one mind and one spirit. So what I'm going to do is, from a biblical perspective, I'm going to read a letter. Now, this is not the law. This is a letter, and it's found in the book of Acts. And what interests me about the book of Acts was the fact that, there were, not only were there 12 churches, but the church in Jerusalem, where the apostles were, they came together and in one mind and one spirit. But the most interesting story that I was able to read in the book of Acts is chapter 5, and that's the story of Ananias and Sapphira. And so I'll read it to you so that you can get an understanding of what I'm talking about. And then I'm going to get into some other things, because you're going to want to avoid this kind of situation. It says, "But a certain man named Ananias and Sapphira, his wife, sold the possession and kept back a part of the price. His wife also being privy to it, and bought a certain part and laid it at the apostles' feet. But Peter said, Ananias, why has Satan filled thine heart to lie to the Holy Ghost and to keep back a portion price of the land?" Now, basically, what you have here is you have Ananias and Sapphira, who said that they were going to join this community that the apostles were forming. And they turned around, and instead of doing what they said that they was going to do, they held back a portion. And as we know, those people, Ananias and Sapphira, died. But I'm going to, so we understand the story if it goes to chapter 5, always until 11. But one of the things that I never hear quoted, and which I'm going to quote now, is it goes into chapter 12 all the way to 15. And I'm going to read it now. "And by the hands of the apostles were many signs and wonders wrought, and the people, and they were all with one accord in Solomon's porch." This is the key verse here. "And the rest durst. No man joined himself to them, but the people magnified them." So basically, what happened was, as I'm reading this story, and it's basic reading and comprehension, that, the people saw that this stuff was taking place, and they saw Ananias and Sapphira die. And no man dared to join this community, but they reverenced them, they respected them, whatever, they humbled themselves, or whatever, you know what I'm saying, and they proceeded. Now, that's basically telling me that, again, they durst, no man joined himself to them, but the people magnified them. So, in other words, just bringing it to modern day terms, they said, hey, listen, we saw this stuff going on. However, we're not going to join this particular community, but we're going to respect what they do, and so forth and so on. And so, and then we see, as you go through the book of Acts, you see the apostles and the disciples going out to other communities. This is why, if you look at the back of pretty much any Bible, you always have the 12 tribes. You'll have the 12 tribes, and then you have it goes into where the missionaries of Paul's journeys, where Paul went to all of the other home assemblies. And so what I'm also reading in the book of Acts is that at that time, the apostles, they spent the majority of their time, it seems as though, as I'm reading comprehension, they spent a lot of time away from their home in Jerusalem, and they spent a lot of time, months even, in certain locations, whether it's a particular home fellowship or to other home assemblies. And that's basically telling me that just reading and comprehending is that not everybody lived in one location. And then when you look at all of the different churches that he visited, there was about 7 different 8 different locations, probably more, but there were many different locations outside of the one that was in Jerusalem. And the Bible doesn't go really into, again, these are letters. This is not the law. This was just what they did at that time, given the time and the circumstances, of that time in Jerusalem. During that time in the reign of under the Roman rule. Now, you bring this forward to today. You have a lot of people using the very same roadmap or the very same construct that they found in the book of Acts to do community, do homesteads, what have you. And that's a good thing. But you must be aware that there are a lot of communities and homesteads that run things differently. And as an individual, whether you have a family, independent on your resources, because a lot of people, what I've noticed over the years is that the vast majority of people that are going to come to a community, they don't really have resources. They don't really have 100,000, 200,000. They don't really have anything to sell or anything like that. And that's fine. That is okay. And one of the things that I'm noticing also today is that if anybody has any means or any money, they're just going to go and they're going to buy their own land. Now, there's nothing in the law. I'm talking about the actual Torah, the Torah, that forbids anybody from going ahead and buying their land. But if you want to join, a community, you have that right too. You have that right if you want to join, because there's many communities out there that are being formed. I said I'm tracking over a dozen right now. Whether it's a Hebrew community or a Christian community or a Messianic community, whatever, a prepper community, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? You're going to want to make sure that you're asking the right questions before you join one of these communities, because you don't have the same kind of integrity of heart that you had back in the days when you had the Apostle Saul. You have a lot of situations where people will join a community, give large sums of money, and then there's a dispute on that land, or there's a dispute. Now, what happens to those people when they've given all of their money and there's a dispute, or there's a concern about money, there's an issue about money? Well, guess what? In a lot of situations, these people leave with nothing. Whether they brought a whole lot of resources or money, they leave with nothing. And personally, I don't want to be in a situation, I don't want to put my family in a situation where I've moved my family hundreds of miles away from where I am, put down upwards of $250,000, and giving it to someone to find out that, sometime later that I'm being mistreated, or I'm being denigrated, or I'm being taken advantage of, or I'm being treated in a manner that is unbecoming. And unfortunately, we live in a world where this stuff has and is happening. It has and is happening. And you're going to want to protect yourself against this by, number one, making sure that you're well aware of what you're joining when it comes to the community, whatever community that it is. Again, Hebrew, Christian, or rather prepper or survivalist community. You're going to want to make sure that you're well aware of how those finances are handled, what the mission statement is, what you're going to be able to leave if you do decide to leave that community. Because, again, we have hundreds of testimonies that I've seen on YouTube of people that have left various communities and have told, listen here, you know what I'm saying, there was an issue with money, how money was being handled, or money was inappropriately being handled, situations where people's wives were being inappropriately dealt with, and then you get into this cult stuff where, you really have no rights, so you have no say-so on where you go or what you do. You want to make sure that you're not doing or putting yourself in a compromising situation, because once you're in it, there's no court or anything that's going to adjudicate that matter for you. And it's completely up to the leaders of that community that you are involved in or that you're a part of to decide what you're not going to get. And it's a sad thing to see so many testimonies of people who've been burnt by people on communities after they've come to the table, plopped down large sums of money, and pretty much got screwed over and left with nothing. And so personally, again, I respect a lot of people who join communities, and I respect a lot of people who started communities, and there's a lot of people that are starting communities. I mean, all over, and I talk to these people all the time, and and so one of the things that I personally like to do is to make sure that moving forward, that if anybody comes to my piece of land, that is our piece of land, and that because we're all living together, and that their interests are protected just as much as my interests are protected. That and that's very important. It's very, very important, because again, you have a lot of testimonies of hundreds of people that's left all manners of communities all up and down the Eastern Seaboard, that have been taken advantage of. Now, a lot of people may say that if you leave a place, it was your fault, so forth and so on. And to an extent, it may be. But, I have a hard time believing that, so many people were in the wrong, and that at no point in time, those leaders of those communities were not culpable and taking advantage of the people that were there and using them and abusing them. Once they're there, and this is why, the issue of finance and community is so important, to have transparency and to make sure that you yourself are protected. Because again, if one of these leaders get the candy asses, or one of these leaders decide that they don't like you anymore, they can pretty much do what they want to do with you. And that is just an unfortunate thing. But at the end of the day, me personally, you have to take personal responsibility. And so, I would warn you to be careful about joining any community, to make sure that you yourself, your best interests are taken into consideration, that you're not putting yourself and your family in a compromising situation, because families have been broken up as a result of community. People have been taken advantage of with large sums of money as a result of community. And it is a very, very, very sad thing. And and this is why personally, instead of, because again, this Bible doesn't say anything about me personally, or anybody for that matter, having to join a community. It talks about, being filled with the Holy Spirit. It talks about, living outside, of the confines of the heathen and the pagan. Now, I'm just talking about from a biblical perspective, but nowhere, in the Torah do I find that it necessarily says that, you must join community. You must be a part of the community. There's a lot of people that, for geopolitical or geographical reasons, that they cannot be a part of a community. They cannot come in the United States and be a part of the community. There's health reasons or health issues of the reason why people cannot be a part of the community. It could be economic issues in terms of debt, where people cannot be a part of the community. There's a whole slew of reasons why you may not be able to join a community. I would highly recommend that you get with somebody or get with people that have your best interests at heart, and that you are in like mind and one spirit. And just because you call yourself a Christian, that doesn't mean that you are in like mind and one spirit with other Christians. Just because you call yourself a Messianic, that doesn't mean that you're going to want to live around another specific set of Messianics. Just because you call yourself a black Hebrew Israelite or an Israelite, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to want to live with a certain set of Israelites, so forth and so on. Or if you're a prepper, it doesn't mean that you're going to want to, just because you're a prepper and I'm a prepper, that doesn't mean that we're going to want to live together. And so it's very important to understand these concepts, and it's important that regardless of what your faith is, what your ideology is, it's going to be a good thing for you to be together with like-minded people. And that's very important. And because, just because, we say that, again, if you call yourself a Christian, that doesn't mean that I'm in like-mind, fellowship, or that these people are like-mind fellowship, just because they call themselves Christians. You have to really click with people. I would not personally recommend that you join any, just like any job, that you don't join a job or any organization because if you don't click with them. Because if you don't meld with people, it's going to be a conflict later on down the line. And that really what it means, really to be in one mind, one spirit, because, you click with them, you vibe with them, you connect with them really on a spiritual level. You have the same goals, the same aspirations, you have the same outlooks, the same viewpoints on things. Very, very, very important for you to understand. And so, and a lot of people, they may decide to move next door to you or whatever, or around a particular community, but that doesn't mean that they want to actually join that community. But, they may move next door because they like being around them. And that's fine also. That's A-okay. But, you're just going to want to make sure that you're aware of these things before you go and join a particular community, especially if you're putting down any money. Anything like that, because again, there's dozens of testimonies out there of people being taken advantage of, families being broken up, and it's a sad thing, but this is what goes on, because people get the hot shits on them. You know what I'm saying? Not only do the people that come to community may get a spirit on them, but the people that will run those communities may get a spirit on them, and you have no legal recourse. You have no ability to do anything. Now, again, from a biblical perspective, the apostles, they were written about. And they walked up with the Messiah, and they learned firsthand from the Messiah. And that, we're hundreds of years, if not thousands of years removed from those caliber of people. So, I would, and again, if you feel as though you want to join yourself to one of these communities and you want to lay down everything that you have at the feet of the heads of these particular communities, whether it's Hebrew, Messianic, Christian, Prepper, what have you, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. I highly encourage you to do it. And that's just how it is, but if you have the funds and the resources to start a community, and that's or a homestead or a prepper group, if you're a prepper, go ahead and do that and look for like-minded people to be a part of your home fellowship or your community or your prepperless survivalist group, whatever it is that you want to call it. I would highly suggest that you do that. So I hope I was able to give some clarification and just understanding, just from what I've read and from what I've understand, and just speaking with brothers and and just reviewing this with brothers, and just reviewing and just reading it and seeing for what it says and understanding, what the word says. But in addition to that, just understanding that again, you want to make sure that you're making the right choice, in that because if something does go wrong, you want to make sure that you have the means to move yourself, because there's situations where up until this day where people, if they could move somewhere, they would, but they don't have the resources and they're locked in and not going to be given the resources to move, so therefore they're stuck. And you don't want to feel stuck, trapped, and enslaved. You don't want that spirit on you. So do your own due diligence, and do what you need to do, to protect you and your family, because it's definitely cost families a lot. Their money, their wealth, their wives, their children. And so be careful. Be very careful, because there's just so many testimonies of people that were not careful and got real laced into this hallelujah, 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 and then they got burned later on. Hope I was able to say something that was informative, and I'll be doing more videos on this community thing, this prepper survivalist, because it's all generally the same. So I'm going to keep it in a general sense. Yeah, take it easy. Have a great evening. Have a nice day. Bye.
But I tell you, man, this man is a liar and a deceiver and a dog.